And then go ahead and, also look at, again, we talk about the ones, we talk about letter sounds, and then go ahead and look at those groups that are starting to blend, whether they're doing sound, and group as well.
And that was really what you call it, the groups that we were practicing.
That we did at first start with, so they're still consistent with the MOY data.
Yeah.
Which is, and then your last, group that we kind of looked at yesterday was that group where we didn't really look at it too heavy, but looking at those groups that are blending and determining, we talked about what would be the next steps because they were able to consistently blend those CBC words. But would that be, that wouldn't be focal, right? So that's just a quick, we talk about discriminatory, I'm gonna show you guys just real quickly after that, so that was a common thing we talked about. With even some of our kids that are reading exceptional.
Or,
Yeah.
can I see families first?
Yeah. Was there any confusion with Cameron or is it still Cameron? You said it's just about Cameron, was there something? Would you notice what kind of terms?
Mr. Stern, do you know how often Dwayne is getting speech? Like, is it consistent or is it just like once?
I can look at his schedule from his
You don't have to right now, I'm just curious. I feel like that's really been a challenge for the blending.
Yeah.
I love him so much, but he tried so hard.
You're trying. And they must be saying that.
They're like, oh, I'm telling you it, you know?
It sounds not right.
No. I can't tell if you're doing W or an R.
That's right.
Yeah.
He did a really good job yesterday, but it was tricky.
This one is It's a little bit of both, but
Mhm.
mainly sound.
Who's that?
Brianna.
But she's blending now, right?
She was, yeah, she said before.
Again, who's that E?
And I'm really wondering.
Just like it was like every single, or a lot of the kids. had
Right,
that.
and that's that quick. All right, let's take the next 2 minutes to finalize. And remember, these are changing. Again, based on the progress monitoring, we'll start next week, so it doesn't have to be that we want to start with the data we have. And then also, as you're taking notes in small groups and foundations, it will adjust then as well.
Because I think Aiden might need, a group by himself.
So let's look at this week and why you think that.
Well, he doesn't know a lot of the letters.
And let's go to his sounds too, because what we wanna do is, as
Let me
she's
look.
now,
I
we don't
just
wanna do
changed
an
my
isolation of,
schedule.
that's his segmented.
No one gave me feedback, so I'm just gonna start going with it, I guess.
So if you look there, he is segmenting, so there's an error in the ending.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's one of the things we wanna focus.
Monday. at
So
1:30.
even though when, we're gonna get to that now, you practice, so when he's chop, you know, those sounds, you wanna help him to isolate.
10:30 on Tuesday and Thursday. Well, when did I, cause I can
No,
move.
I know, 2:30, so it's fine.
2:30, okay.
Okay, because it doesn't have- And then go back to
Do you need
his
anything
actual,
from me?
and then do that.
I'll let you know.
I was just saying, I feel like I sent a lot of homework in December.
I agree,
He's
right,
come a
maybe
long
it's a
way.
lot of practice with
He
it.
really has.
So, who, is there someone else that's similar in
He
so
does,
he's
yeah.
hearing that, but now associating like.
He's like,
this is
it's
good,
the wall.
This is good.
But I love it when I pick him up.
One that
He
was-
immediately starts going and goes,
Then we'll-
I'm like, we're not even in the room yet. That's what we were talking about. Will. He's like, look, we're all. And I'm like, I haven't even said hello.
Who's that, one of your babies? Oh. All right, guys.
Charlie, 42 on the PSF, Cole is 43. He's close.
And so when we're looking at our, needs-based lesson, you had a question, thought something came up. Go ahead.
Yeah, since I'm looking at Jada's data, and her letter names is high,
Learning fluency,
yeah,
uh-huh,
but her letter sounds is well below, and her word reading is high. It's
So let's
on
think about-
benchmark,
right. So what do you think,
and her fluency.
so think in terms of, right, what does it take for a kid to be able to decode? What do they have to know? The sounds. And so, if you're looking at some of those word refluence, some of them are regularly spelled words, some of them are trick heart words. So what possibly could be happening with her in terms of being, go ahead. And how has she learned them? How possibly has she maybe learned some of those words then? Sight, just by like
Yeah, I was
memory.
saying, cause she'll ask me how to spell words and write them, but.
Exactly. So one of the things now we're pushing with the science of reading is that we're understanding that in order for a kid to be able to read, and then later on with like our second graders who are, and third graders, I should say specifically, those 2 syllables, if you're not understanding the structure of a word, you're not understanding that this is made up of smaller parts, and these smaller parts have sounds that go together, then you don't have it. So possibly that she's looking, and we can look at her more closely in grouping to see what she's doing, but she may have just learned them through just sight and not really understanding that you have to know the sounds and phoning of different phonemes.
It looks like vowels too.
Yeah, she.
And I think part of that, because all the siblings talk the same, and they kind of have a little twang. I don't know if you've like,
You know, the twang, or you talking about the DC accent?
the Winslows,
Oh, the DC
you know, they all talk the same, and so I don't know if that's part of it too, but with the vowels, I feel like that's a hard part.
And so pulling out,
'Cause all of them are like that.
I don't wanna say over articulate, but making sure that as a teacher, and we do that in practice round, right, make sure that you are conscious of how you're articulating those sounds, and then having them making sure they formulate those sounds. I know like some of our kids do get speech services, so just making sure that we're in tune with, okay, if we're doing, the biggest one for me, that TH and that F, because they so similarly align in formation and hearing, but making sure that TH, that the teeth are on the tongue, and saying those specific prompts to kids will help them, with, differentiating the sounds, okay? All right, so what we're gonna push into now that we have some, formation of our groups, is we're going to now just do a quick dive or review, I should say, of the hear it portion and of the, decoded portion. So I just have a snippet of a video on your desk. You should have just like a capture sheet of what those instructional look fors are in terms of meeting a small group. So just take about 30 seconds just to kind of review those specific, instructional look fors, which shouldn't be any different. These are the same ones we used 2 weeks ago during our walkthrough. The one though that I do want us to look at specifically though is making sure that the explicit instruction towards the objective and then modeling that targeted strategy or skill is one thing that I want us to really hone in on as you're in your practice. Okay, so let's go ahead and
come back.
right into that. And these, again, on the DC Read videos, Read SharePoint rather, these videos are there as well. Let me just go from here.
Let's try that one again. What was my word?
Sorry, let me start.
Scream. All right. Scream. All right. Scream. All right. Ready? Let's. All right. Ready? Let's go. Scream.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, sorry. There you go. Thank you, Ms. School.
Sounds, okay? Use the top or you can use your fingers. The first word is crate.
Crate. Crate.
Dream.
Dream. Dream.
Stove.
Stove. Oh. Stove.
Scream.
Screen.
Let's try that one again. What was my word? Scream. All right. Ready? Let's go. Scream.
Screen.
Very good. The last one is strike. Very good. Give yourself 2 snaps.
Okay, so let's take a moment to look at what did you notice that the teacher was doing, what did you notice that the students were doing in particular, and then thinking about the particular skill, which was, as we saw, segmenting those particular words.
The teacher was saying the word with clear, like, enunciation, and then having the students repeat it back and decode it, and it was all words that had a blend. We were trying to
So you can see that that was a targeted
Yeah.
particular skill that they were working
with
on.
R's, I think, in the middle.
That triple constant blend right there, yeah. What did you notice though, in particular with that student, I guess on the far right, that she did to support that student when they were using this, and it go even deeper. What did she do with that sound box with that student?
She had an R in the middle already.
Exactly. And so one of the things you were looking at earlier where you were saying, okay, well, you saw that he's segmenting, but where did you see his miscues?
Oh,
In particular,
at the end.
at the end. So when you're looking at that, that's part of the isolation, that's something that you're looking specifically for with Aiden and other students as well, making sure that they hear that ending particular sound. So your focal point for him or of that grouping would be, okay, we're gonna segment these 3 phonemes, but I really wanna hear what's the ending sound, what's that, final sound. And so using that Elkhorn box is just like a point there, you have him isolate that particular sound. In terms of the students, what were they doing in this video in terms of
They were tapping it out.
shopping, going back, they're using their foundations. Again, we talked about with the research of using different tactiles for students, having them push the marbles is another avenue to bring it up. That's not to say that this teacher only does it that way. It might be another group that she uses the Elkhorn box and the marbles. And so what probably has happened here is that those students maybe have graduated from those Elkhorn boxes and they're here, and then that one particular one, she put it there to kind of support them, so that they can isolate and hear that sound that they particularly missed. Okay, so let's shift right into the coding. And so just really quickly before I do that, just to recap again, Mr. Stern, you kind of mentioned this already. With that here portion, you're using articulation, while identifying phonemes, and so making sure that the teacher one is articulating, and then having the students. This is a perfect opportunity to bring out your sound cards for those particular sounds that students are struggling with. Again, I talked about forming the mouth. Watch my mouth. Let me see your mouth. Where are your teeth? Where are your tongue? We talked about focusing on solely listening and that speaking piece. I know we talked about a couple of our kids that we really gotta hone in and making sure that they see what's going on. Manipulations, we just mentioned, the chips, the Elkhorn boxes, and then making sure they understand that they're hearing those sounds in different units within a particular word. So now we'll jump into the coding, sorry. So same thing, really focusing on what do you see the teacher doing in particular, and what do you see the student doing specifically. Okay, let me give me a second, I just gotta go back to the SharePoint because she doesn't wanna load right for me. So this one is kindergarten, the other one was first, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay guys, belly to table, hands up top. You guys ready? Okay, we're gonna start with here. We're gonna practice hearing some of the sounds and words. I want you guys, good, together, okay. We're now gonna warm up our brains with our letters. Warm up our brain, that is good. Actually, let me put one more choice out. Write the letter that says B. Or tone the sound with it together, okay? So if I say t, b, you would say tube. Just say tube. What word? Nice. A.
K.
Y. S.
Yes.
J.
Sorry, guys.
Good.
Our tone. Very good work. Okay, friends, we're now going to warm up our brains with our letters. You guys already know the drill. When I show you the card, tell me the sound it says. Ready? Say it again.
Good.
What sound?
Good.
Yeah, this is G, so it says good. Shasha, how did you want your book? The jump? The back comes first, the back, then the ball. It says book. Last one. Good. We're gonna warm up our brains by just writing a few of our letter sounds. Ready? These are our only choices today. Actually, let me put one more choice out. Write the letter that says B. Good. Erase your B. Say B. B.
B. B.
Write the one that says G. Good. Erase your G. Say G. G.
G.
You guys are doing great with your formation today.
Erase that. You don't know what sound I'm gonna say. Erase that.
Ready? Write the one that says F. You only have two choices. Erase what you have and write which one of these says F. Good. Erase your E. Say E, F.
E. F.
Last one, write the one that says Write the one that says Good. Erase it. Say M. Good. I like to see everyone's lips close for that sound. Okay. Last but not least, before we move on to reading words, we're gonna look at these two heart words that we've been reading a lot lately. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Remember, these are words you can't sound out. There's a
All right, let's take a moment here to stop and again thinking about what you notice that the teacher is saying, doing. What do you see the teacher in terms of materials, and then what do you hear or see the students were doing in this particular area?
I'm assuming if they're having a problem with identifying the difference between B and E. So during, when they were saying the sound, she was saying like, oh, how do you know that that's B? And he identified it by saying B, the bat comes first, then the balls.
Exactly, that in that image there, supporting and leaving that there for them to use. So ultimately, what was the focal need of the students, as you can see, that was
Matching, letter sounds.
the letter sound? So going back to that group that we talked about, letter sounds, and what did you see her doing in the very beginning of the lesson to support them with that?
Flashing.
Those
the letters.
calls.
Yeah.
And did you notice all the letters, or were there?
No, there was a selection.
Or
Yeah.
five.
Right, so she's targeting specific letter sounds, and that's what I'm saying, when we look at our in class, and as you're looking again in foundations, where do you see those particular kids that we talked about that have that need are falling? So we're not gonna just go over those particular letter sounds, and she kind of went into like them writing it, but in terms of them literally just understanding this is this word, and this letter is D, this letter is S, and then providing that scaffold for them was essential. Make sure that was the last one. Was there any other questions that you had in reference to not only this one, but the other one before we start, to make sure you plan it and then practice? Okay, so next steps. The next few minutes, you're going to 5 minutes, you're gonna plan out for hear it and decode it for your group, that is focusing, I guess, specifically on letter sounds. So we're looking at that group that you guys identified already, and just plan it out. If you need an extra template sheet, just let me know. If you have it on your computer, that's fine. Yeah, that's awesome. And then this one, let's say, gonna push in with each teacher, and especially with those particular kids that need that support, to making sure we're mapping out so that what you're doing is also in alignment with how they're receiving the instruction for those particular kids that we talked about with that, the focus on, making sure they identify those letter sounds. Is she asking? That's her, that's her. Cause she didn't just start here, this week.
I think so, but that usually takes like 24 hours to review and comment.
She's the only other one, and then
Just the karate.
You just identifying, change Darian out because he didn't have, I was looking at his schedule, and he was more active with the letter sounds than these students, so I was just confirming.
so let's look
that
at,
they had the same.
their, phones, right?
Yeah.
So, are we in the 3 phones for this group, or 2? Okay, so let's look at identifying what are those 3, what's particularly needed in those phones that where they fall. They're all over, you know?
Yeah,
Okay, let's look at that. What's the other? Sometimes if you like do a quick reshuffle, it kind of
oh,
organizes, are you on your deposit school? Well, even on the actual.
this one,
Mm-hmm. You can find it kind of groups
That's
them.
what it was.
Yeah, so you don't have to always follow.
this true is interesting. Okay, maybe there it goes.
Yeah.
He's all over too.
Right, because remember, all of the phonological, that part of it is just sound, it's just speech and sound. There aren't any letters associated, we're just making sure they're aware, that each word is separate. Right, so remember, you're gonna say the word, they're gonna get back to you, and then you want them to segment it. Other,
For the group that was just doing this specific sound.
so that also doesn't only mean segmenting, that also means other manipulation of words. It's like, it's just a hearing piece. So think about when you have they're deleting sounds, they're adding sounds, that's that piece. But one area we're seeing they're having trouble with is segments in particular. So think about like your other group would be like, who is doing segmenting very good components, that's your which group? Like Brianna's, in that group, they might be working on deleting and substitute versus segment, because we're seeing they're able to, so you see, it's not just segmenting, but that's what the measurement is in DIBELS. When we do funding, we want them to be able to manipulate sounds and words, period. Add it, delete it, substitute it, segment it, blend it back together. So their need, we're seeing specifically, those letter sounds, is that they need to be able to segment, because basically it's a higher or lower to higher order. If you can chop it, blend it, then you can start to delete it, add it, then you can start to substitute. This was just, again, is that confusing or is that?
No, it makes sense.
So as you're planning, thinking about what's your objective, what language are you gonna use? For example, in your lessons, watch my mouth, look at me formulate this particular, as I say, this sound. Let me hear you say it. Say that error, correction, put your teeth together, put your tongue, use your tongue. And then what prompts will you reinforce those prompts you use? So if it's the Elkonin box, it's fine. If it's your choppers, that's what you wanna dictate or notate rather in your planning or hear it. So remember, you don't worry so much about real sounds right now, we're just gonna go straight to hear it and decode it. I know you're fine, that's well, but we're only gonna practice hearing here.
I have, from the reading clinic, the mouth articulation for each letter.
The cards,
Not, I have the cards, but
Cards.
they have a packet that tells you exactly
what to
like,
say.
is this, do your vocal cords tickle or?
Oh yeah, that would be perfect.
Let me go, I'll go make a couple copies of that.
Excellent. Cause that will definitely help, like, with little prompts to use.
Exactly, cause sometimes it's like, where is my tongue in this, but it says exactly the formation.
And should we, okay, if I have these students that are struggling with, let's say a vowel sound, a short vowel sound, should I add that in there, or should I do like a focus on just vowel sounds when I do it? Like when I do it?
So what are you seeing in particular overall for that group?
Like this is the group that's struggling with letter sounds, so they need the vowel sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do have for our practice, what you're gonna do in the next 2 minutes, a little bit of time, we can look at the sound cards that you guys can use. The Elkonin boxes as you're directly and finishing up for that. And then if you still need some phonemes that you wanna look at really quickly to draft down as just, remember this is just our practice session. So just making sure, what are they gonna do in hearing the sounds, breaking the sounds down, or segmenting in this case for most of these kids, and then how they're gonna practice decoding.
What words do I use to?
So where are you stuck in terms of?
So the group that's struggling with just the letter sounds, period.
Mm-hmm.
If I focus on vowels, short vowel sounds, and I'm doing my hear it portion, that'll be probably segmenting like the two sounds.
So were they able to segment two sounds in Amplify, or were they struggling with 2 and 3, or, you know, we're really struggling. So go back to PSF number. Or hearing. Three phonemes, yeah, so they need to be working on 3 phonemes. And so you can literally, so right here, this is just a quick guide. So when you're phoneme segmenting, you wanna start with these words here. So you literally can start with hop, hit, bet, peep, stuff like that. And the reason we're looking at those, because what's happening is these are what we're considering your stop sound. So like you said, it's not one of those that you can drag out. So it's easier for a kid to isolate those versus something like the word am. Because it's hard to first separate that A and that M, because they're kind of glide, and that's what's considered like a continuate, or continuate phonemes. Okay, so we're gonna take one more minute and then we're gonna go ahead and transition so that we have, everybody has an opportunity to do their practice and give feedback.
This is, in the video that we were watching, there were like 3, where there's 3 exercises that the teacher was doing. It was first the chopping, or what my confusion is.
So the first one we did was just the kids were just, chopping the phonemes. And then the second one, she was doing a quick drill on those letter sounds, right?
And the decoded was just asking like what says, or
So,
what says
so
above.
that part was, yeah, so she went into that, I didn't go further into,
Yeah.
okay, now we're gonna look at and try to say the sounds in these particular words and decoding that. So in that case, right, so we're saying these are struggling, we can start with like simple word families, right?
Yeah.
At. Okay.
That's what
at.
I would do with this group.
Right,
I think,
so that's what we're gonna practice right now.
okay,
So have your list of exact words you wanna do for them. So like you mentioned, okay, they're having trouble with vowels, so you can either start with at or et, and then, okay, let's. Exactly, and then Tuesday could be to, right,
can they be, nonsense words?
yes.
Cause that's what I did with the other, my group this week.
And all
I
you
just
do
did,
is you
like,
give a
neb,
quick
seb.
prompt, hey, the next word that we're gonna decode is gonna be a nonsense word, okay? Just so you guys know, this is a silly word, it doesn't mean anything, it's just made up. And then you can switch it back to, okay, now we're gonna do another real word. Let's try to read this one. Let's do the sounds of this word. So on our schedule, we have to start with Miss Warren, Richardson, and then Staring. And I think you said the vowels, so you can use the practice.
Mine looks the same.
Sherry didn't want to list right there. She's asking for some resources.
This is, this is first grade, this is just the, benchmark goals. And then it goes here, that's that, and then it goes into, this, the first sheet is I think it's 2 phones, and then the second one is 3 phones. Yeah.
Put the sound.
And I
like
can
that.
share this with the parents when they get it home.
What sound is,
I just wanna make, yeah.
Thank you.
Something that we only need to see.
No, I would say they can, I would say more the list, yeah.
I have
Yeah, this one doesn't
here
repeat,
is like
yeah.
segmented
Not this.
sound, and then here is like you're picking a particular sound,
Mhm.
and then decoded is you're asking them what says, and then they're writing it on there. Like,
Decoding is reading,
decoding is reading.
encoding is the spelling.
Okay.
Right, but you're right on though when you're saying, so we're looking at right now those letter sounds, so part of that decoding practice, right, is, okay, what says, no, read this letter sound. Right, so you're showing them, like you're showing, okay, here's the,
Right, you read, okay.
okay, Mr. Stern, I need to hear the sound. Right? Ultimately, we're breaking it out, because we ultimately want them to be able to just read the whole word. But right now, what we're saying is that they need to have that practice too with those letter sounds in that particular part. And then we started talking about, okay, let's look at, or at. We're saying those vowels,
So,
introducing those.
and
Oh, it has to
So
be
that
something short.
would be like
and
here.
coded would be here.
That would be the coding, if you're displaying,
I thought the coded was, right, if I'm displaying,
if you're showing them the word, okay, let's read it. We just practiced drill sound, I mean, we just practiced those sound,
okay. So,
so this is second, this is no letters, just all sounds. So this makes sense, right? We're gonna review these letter sounds, we're gonna do these drills. Before we read some words, let's chop up some sounds.
okay,
So it literally could be bat, book,
okay,
at. Next word, bet, book, at,
mhm,
that.
so this should,
No, that's, you can use the same words, is what I'm saying.
okay,
The only difference is now, okay, you guys did a good job hearing the sounds, now let's look at it and read it, right, just like Ms. Lord was saying. All I was saying to you, sometimes when we look at those kids that are struggling with just identifying letter sounds, we might want to just start with those short word families when they're reading. That's it. What it- Okay, so we're gonna get started. And you guys, we're kind of doing practice kind of like we did before. We'll be the students, you're the teacher at the small table, so we're gonna come over to Ms. Warren's table. And remember, it's a practice thing, right? Practice means we're trying to make it better. Alrighty, we're at your table, so it includes your management practices, your practice too as well. Let's just start with hear it then. Okay. So remember, all we're doing is hear it and decode it for today, practicing that, so let's practice with hear it.
alright, so. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Lauren.
We're going to work on segmenting some words. We're gonna start by taking our chopping hands out. I want you to repeat the sounds after me, chop the sounds up, and then we're gonna read my column.
So you start, okay, you wanna say it and then you're gonna chop up the sounds.
Okay, you're gonna say the whole word and then chop the sounds. Alright.
And then, go ahead, you come on, one for us.
Alright, for example, my first word is book at. Well,
Say the
should I
word.
okay, my first word is bat. Book at. And then I'll say it again. Okay, one.
Cause remember, what is the goal for them to do?
To link yourself.
No, to segment.
Oh, segment.
So we don't want them to happen, because what we're seeing a lot in the testing is some of them are doing that. And then we think about time-wise,
Mhm.
it does cut down on that as well, but more importantly, we want them to isolate know
Okay,
that this
each
way.
side,
Mhm.
okay.
You wanna start over?
Yes, okay. All right, good morning.
Good morning.
We are going to now segment some sounds in our word. Take out your chopping hands. I'm gonna say the whole word, and then I'm gonna chop my word apart. I'll give you an example. My word is bat. B-at. Repeat after me. Bat.
Act.
Good job. Next one. Bet.
Bet. Act.
Good job. Kit.
Kit. It.
All right, Miss Hayes, I want you to think about the last sound in our word. So you have it. What's my last sound? And kit. Good job, kit. All right, next one. Dot.
Dot.
Miss
Dot.
Richardson, I heard the wrong sound in the beginning of your word. Let's say our word one more time and listen for the first sound. What's my word? Dot. Dot. Say it with me. Dot. What's the first sound? D. Good job. Hot. Alright. Next one. Last word. Cut.
Cut.
Great job. Alright. So that's.
Okay, can see, we'll stop there, that's good. Alright, so when we, oh, my thing's signed out. Feedback, so thinking in terms of, if you look at your instructional, needs sheet. The instructional report sheet, what's some of the feedback, and we can do a quick round robin, to give Ms. Warren some feedback. And so one of the things I noticed that you did well was you introduced the focal need, okay, we're going to segment today. I would even take it a step further and make sure they know we're only doing 3 sounds today.
Okay.
That's one thing I would do, or if it's 4 sounds, I would go, well, today we're gonna do 4 sounds, so they know we're getting prepared in their head, that there's no extra that they can, or. All right,
Yeah,
Ms.
and I think, the chopping is really, we're still at that point, especially if you introduce, oh, it's going to be 3 sounds, how many times should we be chopping?
Right.
Something like that, cause I think that's you did a really good job introducing that, and then maybe even making the connection to Haggerty. This is just like what we do in Haggerty, it'll help us become stronger readers, like something. So they know, oh, we do this every morning, it's not something new.
I noticed that you were distinguishing each class because she got the error and you just, and you, gave feedback and then you got in practice.
And that was to that point, I would say that's a quick note that you're taking down, oh, dang, Ms. Hayes, she's messed up on that ending sound, or Ms. Richardson, she's not hearing that beginning sound, because then that would take your lesson the next day. Hey, I really need to focus on the beginning sound. Okay, guys, you guys did a great job yesterday chopping the sound, and today we're gonna chop it, but I want you to identify the beginning sound of this word.
Okay.
In that sound, or the ending sound, so that's just a note.
But your pacing was really good.
Yeah, that was-
Like the quick corrections, correct it once, keep it moving, that was good.
Ms. Richardson, in terms of focus on instructional needs, did you see anything?
I was gonna say how she, noticed every error.
Paying attention
It was aligned to the goal that, for this group of, isolating, segmenting the sounds, so the questions, the extension questions asked when they say asked Ms. Richardson, the beginning and the ending sounds to isolate those.
Right, right. Okay. Kudos to you. All right, Ms. Richardson, you are up next. We are your students. Well, guess what you gonna do with it?
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So, let me get your picture, but. Actually, give me a second, I didn't start yet. Stop being a child. All right. All right, so we just reviewed some letter sounds, and now we are going to move into segmenting our sounds that we hear in our words. To segment our sounds, we are going to use our choppers, so let me see them. Alright, so I'm going to give you guys an example. You can just listen and then we're gonna start all together. My example is bat. I'm gonna say bat. At. Alright, so our first word together is brand. Brand.
And.
Bed.
Bed. And.
Fin.
Fin. In.
Top.
Top.
Everybody get that one? Let's try it again. Top.
Top.
Alright, good job.
And sing. All right, let's do a round robin again and just giving feedback to Ms. Richardson in alignment with, instruction look for, just in terms of her here instruction wise.
You gave like the introduction very clearly.
Yeah, I was,
Didn't waste time on that and, expectations, there's no, good example.
Yeah, I agree in the vocabulary, I think using words like segmenting and like saying the purpose, like, oh, we just did this, now we're gonna do this. But using that vocabulary of segmenting right off the bat, so they know. It's good.
I think like again, the flow was very smooth, quick 1 minute, 2 minutes at the most. Shopping through each word, you were listening in, the prompts. Let's try that one again. I don't think we all had it. And I think that was also a quick way of sometimes not isolating a student out who might still be struggling emotionally with corrections or feedback. And even though it's a small group, but you heard, me kind of like pull back from it, but you notated that and say, oh, I need to do this again so I can really hear Ms. Hayes without saying Ms. Hayes. So those are good teacher moves that we don't necessarily always talk about, that I think you may realize, maybe not realize that you did, to help me that I didn't feel like having a meltdown with feedback.
Good language used in the small group, similar to Miss Lauren. Good language use.
No, I was gonna say what Ms. Hayes said, when we went back around to review the specific words you heard, like one or two people were struggling there.
All right, thank you, Ms. Richardson. And Mr. Stern, we're gonna ask that you be teaching now.
Oh wait, these are the, there's the,
Those are
I would have,
You want the Elkona boxes?
no, I wanted the vowel, or not the vowel, I was gonna pick N, E, okay, yeah, I'll look through these. Take N some.
Probably close to L. I'm not really sure.
Alright, good morning, everyone. So we were just segmenting 3-letter CBC words that had B, D, P, and N to start those words. So now we are going to do a little bit of the drill sounds to review what these letters, what sound they make. So I'm gonna present the card, and then you are going to say the sound really quick. We're just gonna do a drill.
So I would go back.
Yeah.
So remember, segmenting is the sounds. So when you said, we just segmenting D, P,
Yeah.
E, we just segmented words that had D.
We're just
You
segmenting.
see what I mean? Because
yeah.
that's the ultimate, and then that's, now you're showing, okay, here's the D that goes with the D
Right.
that we just segmented.
Okay, so we were just segmenting words that had the sounds D, B. So now I'm gonna present the sound cards, and you are going to, or you are going to letter cards. I'm presenting letter cards, and you're gonna repeat the sound back. Okay, so we'll try.
Yep, sure.
Oh,
Yep.
I'm nervous. Okay.
We're good students.
I heard Ms. Doyle. Ms. Richardson, can I hear you? Or- something like that. Good. Description. Okay. And then I would maybe like pull them out and have them pick which
Go ahead.
Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna say a word and I want you to pick this. I'm gonna say a word and I want you to pick the sound that the word starts with. Okay. So the word is bat. Bat. Can you pick the sound that the word starts with? Okay, good, I got that. So we can move back to the sound. The word is pit. Pit. Good. The word is not. Description, what sound? I've got one more. Trying to figure out what's, the word is dat. Let's see.
All right, let's start with, feedback in terms of instructional needs. So he did more, going into the coded parts, which is fine. So, in terms of our structure, look for us, let's go round robin, we'll start this way.
I would say it was good that he had the cards, he had what letters he was gonna use, well, I'm sure he would have had what letters he was gonna use, that he had the materials, yes, I like that.
He allowed a piece for students and classes.
Right, that's that whole point of it is you're leading or more or less guiding, but the students have to get the practice in. Are they practicing the code? Are they practicing here? So just knowing that the students are doing the work, pushing them to.
I don't know if I missed you saying, that you, like you, I think I heard that you were gonna pick the letter that makes the beginning sound,
Yeah.
but I didn't know if you said, like, what the sound first.
Right.
And then pick the letter that makes that sound.
Yeah, I could have been, I was struggling with like the language to say, like, give clear instruction on that part too.
I think what you can do is, instead of saying like what the word starts with, because we never really say that,
Right.
beginning
The
sound or
beginning sound.
initial, like if you keep saying initial sound, integrity, initial means the beginning, like just being like consistent across, you know what I mean? It will make it easier for you and them. What sound are we looking for? Like maybe even check for understanding, okay, I'm gonna say a word, who can tell us what sound we're looking for, like something like that.
Yep, so just feedback by using that language from negative, like just even with the foundation students, we're gonna chop it up, we're gonna say again, the beginning sounds and identifying, in that one. One thing I would push you always to do is model what you want them to do before doing, right? So, and then it goes back to your expectations, so with all the cards, did you want me to go first?
Right.
Her to go first, so
Yeah.
just making sure you're in your lesson planning, very clear about, okay, we're gonna do one at a time, you're gonna listen and you're gonna, find that sound. Another, support with that are your foundations letter tiles, so that everyone would have one.
Yeah. And just be careful, this is for all of us, is the schwas with those letters specifically. We're not doing ba, we're not doing, like if you hear a student da, pa, really work on like the stop sounds of it. Just cause that's a really big,
What's that? Which
so instead of like, instead of saying b, and you hear kids saying ba, or you hear like da instead of d, like really pushing them to stop that like breathy, like is very breathy, but it's a stop, we're not saying pa, you know what I mean? It's just adding those
And so,
extra things.
to that point, to wrap us up, the story printed out
Yeah,
some prompts of how you can address those needs when they start to.
this is
Make
a letter scope and sequence, but if you open it, it tells you the mouth articulation for each.
Right, so when she's
sound.
saying instead of buh, it's not an open, it's buh.
And then like, if you go like your vocal cords, what your mouth looks like,
Right.
I don't know.
Those are, no, those are quick things to use and.
And it goes like, as you get further on, it goes over spelling patterns and the morphology behind it and things like that.
Alright, so, our next steps is that you guys are going to start start to wrap out, your lesson plan for each group. And going all the way through, even through the spelling. I know that we didn't practice, so we're gonna continue practicing so you can perfect, your craft for each of your groups that you formulated. And we'll come back next week for LEAP and we'll practice on the decoding part in our practice clinic with everybody. So at that point, if you want, and I'll send out follow-up information, if you want to already bring in when you've done and we can work on it that way, that would be even more, support. Appreciate you. Thank you for you guys' vulnerability and have a productive day.
Does that make sense?
About the letter.
Yeah.
This is, we all.
Because what happens is, I saw it in second grade, is that the student would deliver the writing, they would say, but,